Langston Hughes was born on February 1st, 1901, in Joplin, Missouri. His full name is James Mercer Langston Hughes. And between 1901 and 1915, his parents would separate, and he would go on to move frequently during his childhood. Though he was largely raised by his grandmother, who tells him stories about Black resilience, abolitionist, and pride, which will go on to shape his sense of history and identity. By 1916, Hughes has moved to Lincoln, Illinois, to live with his mother, and he begins writing poetry for the first time seriously. And between the years of 1917 to 1920, he attends Central High School in Cleveland, Ohio. Hughes will go on to become the class poet, and he publishes poems in the school magazine. His writing is already focusing on race and identity. In 1921, he enrolls in Columbia University in New York City. He leaves after 1 year due to racism and social isolation, but he continues writing independently. And between the years of 1922 and 1925, he works a series of jobs including sailor, cook, and busboy, traveling to places like Africa and Europe. These experiences deepen his connection to working class people and global Black culture. In 1926, he goes on to write his first poetry collection called The Weary Blues. When the book is published, it blends a mixture of poetry with jazz and rhythm and blues rhythms, marking Hughes as a major new voice. And between the years of 1920 throughout the 1950s into the 1960s, during the Civil Rights era, Hughes continues to write poetry and plays, and also essays that support racial justice and highlight Black dignity and perseverance. And in 1967, on May 22nd, Langston Hughes would unfortunately die what I would consider the young age of 66 years old. Though his legacy lives on, Hughes is remembered as a writer who gave voice to ordinary Black Americans. His voice remains widely read, studied, and quoted, especially during Black History Month, for its honesty, musicality, and enduring relevance. And that's why we have this whole generation of poetry from poets who have revitalized the style of poetry by Langston Hughes, a prolific figure in American poetry and the genre known as jazz poetry. If it wasn't for poets like Langston Hughes, we wouldn't have such a radical and progressive style of poetry. A man who wasn't afraid to write what he felt, write what he saw, and wasn't afraid when he was told to stop. He proved that you can write poetry, and it does not have to be beautiful. It does not have to be sunshine and rainbows and fluffy clouds like marshmallows. Poetry can be deep, real, sad, and show you the absolute worst of humanity. And he did that. And actually, it was his poetry that inspired one of my old poems called Harlem's Whore, which you can find on my Instagram. I recently put it back on there. It's a rather short piece, but it is inspired by the writing of Langston Hughes, since the Harlem played a large role in quite a few of his poetry, quite a bit of his poetry. Hope you all enjoy this, and I'll see you in the next mini documentary for this year's Black History Month.